Surprise bill? Need fast funds? CashNet USA can help. When you need money fast, be the hero.
Apply in minutes at cashnetusa.com and get a fast decision. All loans subject to lender approval. Speed of funding is subject to verifications and your bank's processing times.
Great gifts for Dad? We've got them. And they're up to 60% off at Nordstrom Rack stores now.
How did I not know Rack has Adidas?
They've got the best gifts.
Gotta show Dad some love.
Snag amazing deals on Father's Day gifts from Cole Haan, Calvin Klein, Vince, and more. Great brands, great prices. That's why you Rack.
Someplace underneath.
I was reading today about happiness and like how do you judge that? Because happiness is internal and how do you judge it externally, right?
Yeah.
And he was talking about money. And of course, most people, if you're poor, $100,000 would make you very happy.
Right.
You know, you can like relax a little bit. But if you already have lots of money, $100,000, it's just kind of like a dopamine hit.
Yeah.
And for like a month, you're just like, yes. And like, but then after that, it kind of equals out. And then now your life is just drinking better wine and you have a better car. Mm-hmm. And that's just the basic life right now. So that's kind of why people want to keep making money. It's a drug hit.
Oh, yeah, it's absolutely an addiction. Except we treat people who have that addiction like they're amazing and better.
Right.
But they're usually not very smart or
No,
good.
they're addicts.
Yeah. Their specific drug is money, and a lot of times that involves really nefarious behavior to even get that money and like a disregard for humanity in general.
Right. And usually being given money from your papa. And there's a big myth going around that's like, look at all these women and how they got rich because they got it from their husbands. Because women, they have this like women don't know how to work subtlety to it.
Who are these people?
I don't want to mention their names, but they're like right-wing podcasters.
Stop looking at them.
Stop.
Sorry.
They're just like on my stupid feed.
I know.
Because it's all Trump now.
No, I know.
When really like women couldn't get bank accounts till the 1970s. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I can't build generational wealth if my mother got a card for the first time.
Those guys are never going to hear. They're not actually thinking about it. They're just saying rage points. They don't care about rational conversations.
I think they do. And I think they think that they're better than everyone else.
I do think but I think that's why they won't have those conversations because, again, as we've been talking about with the church, that would make you address a lot of things that are uncomfortable. And who wants to do that?
Who wants to do that? Well, I think there's a big direct correlation between people who don't read and why we're here right now. Because reading, you have to put together the thought in your head. But if I just go on YouTube Reels, then the thought is put together for me. So I don't have to make any sort of internal thought on my own.
Well, thankfully, the Department of Education is getting dismantled, so I'm sure it'll get better. Welcome to Someplace Under Neith. I'm Natalie Jean.
I'm Amber Nelson. I want to see like the 4th grade indoctrination. Like, well, we're going to start with brain rot reels, and then we're going to move on to the Pledge of Allegiance.
Well, I mean, there are other countries are doing it better, but like we've said on the show, media literacy is being integrated into some schooling, which is really, really important. I've seen it better handled in other countries, but hopefully it will also seep into our schools. And teachers are the last line of defense and the first line of defense, and we treat them like complete shit in this country. But we're very thankful for our teachers. They are very, very, very important. Sometimes the difference between a person completely falling into the cracks, sometimes the only difference between a kid eating, sometimes is the teacher.
Yeah, because they notice a pattern of behavior with a child and they say, hey, what's going on?
Yeah. But we're not here to talk about the good people of the country, unfortunately.
No, we're here to talk about money makes the world go around.
See,
the world go around.
When it's a song about it, it's fun. Just like the Cardi song's very fun. We love cabaret. Mm-hmm. It's fun to be silly about money sometimes. And you're right when you were talking about. I think there's nothing more condescending and like repulsive than a really rich person telling other people like money doesn't buy happiness, man. I should know. And it's like, why don't you sleep on the ground for 2 days?
Right.
Or not have access to dental care, or not be able to have a meal that has any nutrition in it.
Yeah.
And tell me that money doesn't matter. Fuck you. Don't ever, ever listen to a rich person say that shit to you. They don't even know what it is to be a human being.
No.
Money absolutely can buy happiness when you don't have a fucking comfortable place to sleep, when you don't have warmth and shelter, when you don't have the medical care you need.
They know it buys happiness. That's why they want more of it.
Those people who are obsessed in that way, we were just talking about all of the oligarchy and the technocratic bullshit that's happening. Those people have never had a moment of discomfort in their lives. They don't even know. They don't even know what humanity is, and we're supposed to pedestal them.
No. I saw a clip of this very wealthy man who's like, I just want to prove that anybody can make it. And he I think he was given $100 to go make his own life. And he, after a week, was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. He said, if I had the money, he even admitted on air, he said, my father gave me money and then I knew how to invest it wisely. He said, but I can't make that money. And I'm like, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. How am I just going to go invest $1,000 in Apple to acquire more wealth if I don't have $1,000?
If you have to pay your water bill. And
Yeah,
of course. But that's we're watching this play out in real time. The people who are pushing us to the brink of collapse, not even willing to pay people a living wage, pushing the tipping culture into citizens' hands, making people tip more and not paying their service people anymore.
No, we're doing worse than the Great Depression.
Yeah.
Did you know the Titanic? Because I was looking at prices of could you afford it with inflation to ride on the Titanic. I could not afford to ride in the Leonardo DiCaprio
like in the
quarters.
The bottom quarters?
Yeah, where they're all dancing.
Where everybody drowns.
No, I can't even afford to go drown on the Titanic.
Yeah, I know. Yep. We're gonna, guys, we gotta really be strong in the next couple of years. And
yeah, we gotta cook
take
with
some
beans.
action.
Yeah.
We gotta take some action. And I'm not gonna say anything else. I'm just gonna let that lie where that lies. So speaking of oligarchies and techno-fascists and white nationalists, the LDS Church. Now that we've considered why the top levels of the church want to hush up their bishops and the church's many victims, which is money, we should probably take a closer look at this section of what the church is. And I am being very salty right now. I'm sorry. I know that, again, I don't want to keep rehashing this, but I want to, anybody who has love for people in the church and who maybe even are still members, the reason I'm angry is because of that. I'm mad because this is not how you should be treated.
Yeah.
It's wrong.
Yeah, there's good members, and you deserve to worship whatever God you want. But when it comes down to money involved in human trafficking,
yeah.
Well, this is a woo, woo, woo police siren here.
Yeah. So at the end of the last episode, we broached the subject of something that really gets to the core of the sickness inside the church, which is this thing called the Operation Underground Railroad. And that isn't the crux of everything, but it is a microcosm of all of the things wrong in this church. And stay tuned, because we will be talking about OUR a lot more. So we'll get a nice long look inside of that den of snakes. And I apologize to snakes for associating them with Tim Ballard. So on January 22nd, 2025, the Salt Lake Tribune released an article titled
Mormon Land, Understanding the Big Courtroom Showdown in the Tithing Lawsuit Against the LDS Church.
So, yes, you heard that correctly. There is an active current lawsuit being formed against the church by former members.
I've seen it on Instagram Reels where they're like, have you been hurt by the LDS Church? And I was like, whoa.
Well, okay, so right now what's happening, there are 9 plaintiffs in this specific lawsuit. And the other side is the church and Kurt McConkie. And we're going to talk about the other branch of the church that's involved in this today. But right now, they are 9 individuals who are suggesting, because the church's tithing money is being spent on venture capitalism, on like investments and malls and property and like lands, in different states that their tithing money was not used appropriately. It was inappropriately used, but also they were being lied to about what it was being spent on. So that's what the lawsuit's about. And as far as the class action thing, is if I'm understanding the legalese correctly, there are several layers of this lawsuit going on, and the plaintiff side is attempting to turn this into a class action lawsuit, but that is something that also has to be approved of by a judge, I believe, is how I'm understanding this.
And let's hope that judge is an LDS.
Well, he's not right now, and we'll talk about that judge too. But of course, the church is doing everything in their power to prevent this from being a class action lawsuit, because can you imagine how many Mormons who have given 5, 6, 7 figures to this church who now are disenfranchised by it, who have walked away and realized they've been duped? You know how many of those people are going to come back and be like, give me my fucking money back?
Yeah, of course. In the last episode when they were like, we stand with the bishop, I forgot about the money. I forgot about the 10%. They probably gave $600,000. Yeah, because now you have to like be like, oh, I guess I gave it to trash.
Yeah. So the people who walked away, of course, they'd love to join in on a class action lawsuit. They were robbed. They were robbed. They were willingly giving it over. But this lawsuit is saying what's the truth, which is they said that they were helping charity and like keeping the church's lights on. But what they're actually doing is doing corporate buyouts and investing in like offshore bullshit and like meeting with quadrillionaires in the Middle East and stuff, which is what's happening. So actually, as we record this is in court. So by the time we finish recording, we may know a little bit more about this today. So we'll have to add an insert. So this is a little bit about what the class action lawsuit could rain down upon the church.
Last week, in a key hearing, a federal judge heard arguments in the lawsuit, which, if it is allowed to move forward as a class action, could end up involving thousands, even millions, of plaintiffs and exposing hidden financial dealings within the church. Ooh, this is deep.
So this is kind of a big deal. It's not the first time somebody's tried to come at them for tithings, but this is a big shift. I think it's really good this is happening. But this is going to be a really rough road for these plaintiffs to fight against the church because, shockingly, their law team, Curtin McConkie, is arguing releasing all of the financial documents of the LDS Church by saying that it's violating religious freedom, to which I say, thanks for saying the quiet part out loud. They're saying, we don't want you to see our finances because of religion. It's like, oh yeah, that's why you don't want people to see your finances, because of God? Okay. Did you know, by the way, religious organizations in this country aren't required to disclose their spendings to the IRS?
What?
None of them.
What?
It is a full trust basis. Yeah, I sure didn't know that. Churches do not have to show what they're spending money on.
Well, you said in the last episode that, you know, maybe this was started of the freedom of the church. So anybody from any class can go to the church and say, hey, I'm being hurt. Can I please be like helped in some way? But they just took it and ran with it the other way.
Yes. And you're not the only person who thinks that. We'll hear from somebody else who has those same thoughts. Amber, as you see, I responded with
all caps.
What is this?
What the fuck?
48 number font. I was speechless. I had no idea that churches were able to spend on an honor code based system, that they can take money, not be taxed, use citizens' tax money for other things, and they just are like, don't worry about it. Like the IRS is just like, we trust you.
It's almost like poor rules are only for poor people.
It's almost like, yes, that, and it's almost like this set of rules would send the most vile human beings into religion so that they would be completely free to do whatever they wanted.
That is truly demonic, because religion should be a safe space. It should be beautiful. This is creation. This is earth. This is water. This is prayer. This is manifesting. This is God. This is beauty in God, and not just some pedophile who's escaped in the ranks who gets protected by his bro code,
or a guy who is a money addict who just sees this as an opportunity to hoard money in a vault, because that's what's happening too. On the other side of it, it's both of those things get get slipped right in there. To me, that seems like the worst things that humanity could do. It doesn't really sound like religion to me, but that seems like what we've chosen as America, what religion means.
Is this the age of Aquarius everyone was talking about? Because I thought it was spiritual enlightenment, like in a good way. And I didn't think it would be like I was talking to Adam earlier. I was like, it feels like we're slipping into like Old Testament.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. Is this the age of Aquarius? Just some angry, vengeful God?
Maybe.
I don't want it.
The people who say that they talk for God seem to be really terrible people. So if that is what God is, I don't know. Like, I don't really want to go to heaven. That sounds terrible. It sounds like the most abhorrent people will be there.
Yeah, and like God is just allowing this to happen. Is God evil? I don't know. That's kind of elementary school question, I guess. But someone's using your name.
Sunshine.
It's God made of sunshine. But someone's like using the name to do evil things. You think you're not going to stop this?
I don't know.
But then we can only hope that the truth and light will come out at the end.
Yeah, that's what we have to hope. If you'll recall, a few episodes back, we talked about how the church tried to covertly purchase the Salt Lake Tribune in order to have no media speaking negatively about the church or even just telling the truth about the church, because the Salt Lake Tribune speaks out against the Mormon church. And just, it was maybe like 5, 6, more like 7 years ago now, I think.
Is this like Trump buying TikTok?
It was covertly tried to be purchased by the church so that they could control the narrative of the newspaper. And they, even though they started it like in the 1800s, it's gone back and forth. And it is a very truthful paper. And they don't like that. So they tried and they failed this time around.
Wow.
So to be straightforward, they very much openly want to have full control to cover their crimes and amoral behavior up. That's just how it is. They want it to be covered up. That's, sorry, guys. I don't know.
I guess they take it as violence when you say, it's an abusive partner, when you're like, hey, I didn't like how you hit me. Mm-hmm. And they're like, what do you mean? You can't say that to me. And they're just being really sensitive. And like, you can't say that. Like, they take that as violence when you call out their actions.
Right. I think that's Darvo. Is that Darvo? Defend or attack. Wait, let me look this up.
Radicalize. Reagan. Voldemort.
Yes.
Orgasm.
Yes, bitch. Deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender.
Man, yeah, that happens every time. When you tell a bad person, like, hey, what you did was wrong. You can't say that.
I'm the victim.
I'm the victim.
I'm the victim. Look at this cute baby. Yeah, no, it's true. The lawsuit has come to be because of some extremely brave and, dare I say, Christ-like whistleblowers who used to work for Ensign Peak Advisors. So this lawsuit is only in existence because there were people on the inside who felt that they were doing something wrong and revealed to the public the financial records of the LDS Church. So that lawsuit is because those people in the lawsuit saw the financial records and went like, I was angry at the church and I left and I wasn't happy I spent all that money on tithings. But now you're telling me they weren't even helping people.
No.
That they were just making themselves richer on it. And that's when that lawsuit started happening to me. Like, I want my money back. So these whistleblowers, who I would consider a lot more Christ-like.
Yeah.
They used to work for Ensign Peak Advisors. And so who is Ensign Peak Advisors? Well, it's the investment branch of the LDS Church. They are investment bros. So there's a whole branch of the church that doesn't have the church sign. You would never know. You wouldn't know by the Ensign Peak Advisors that is a church's financial
So are these like
company.
the Wall Street Patagonia bros with the lattes?
Patagonia is actually very progressive.
Oh, really? Because I always see them when I lived in New York. They were around Wall Street in their little Patagonia vests.
Yeah, I think the Wall Street bros just aren't checking to see what
They don't give a
Patagonia
shit. They just want the
is.
money. But these guys are worse because they're like, oh, we're going to take your money and then just go use it to make more money, but for God.
But they actually are the same guys. So the money-making department, by the way, is headed by men who they call bishops.
Okay.
So,
Wait.
I'm sorry. It's almost funny. It's hard to take it seriously.
So they're just straight up saying God is money.
Their financial investment branch is run by finance bros who use the term, they call them like Bishop John but it's just a guy making the money. It's so crazy.
Are they even in LDS?
Yeah. Oh no, they're all Mormons.
Okay.
Whenever I need to send roses that are guaranteed to make someone's day, the only place I trust is 1-800-Flowers.com. With 1-800-Flowers, my friends and family always receive stunning, high-quality bouquets that they absolutely love. Right now, when you buy a dozen multicolored roses, 1-800-Flowers will double your bouquet to 2 dozen roses. To claim this special double roses offer, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/Pandora. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/Pandora.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
But they are investor in Wall Street guys because, as you recall, bishops are lay people in the Mormon church, so all bishops have other jobs. These bishops just happen to be Wall Street guys. And they're running a full branch of the LDS church, and they use clergy titles to build malls and bail out insurance companies. Yeah, and you heard that right. The LDS church used tithings to buy an insurance company.
What?
It's like the members are investors. So it's like, what's really happening here is all of the LDS church members, they're basically just investors, right? But instead of a return on money, they get the idea of a concept of a kick-ass second life on Earth Ultra or whatever.
So is this why a lot of insurance companies are canceling their premiums in places like Florida? It's really hard to get flood insurance in there because they're like, well, maybe you like gay people too much, so you should just let it flood.
I mean, it's quite possible. I find it really interesting that a church who is taking 10% of all of their members' money and investing it for themselves is also part of something as soulless as an insurance company. Like, it's just a little cherry on top of all of it. It's just like, which is illegal for them to buy out as a nonprofit, to buy out an insurance company.
It's illegal, but take a number, wait in line.
Yeah. So there are some problems with this trade of the members being investors in the church because they don't call them that, of course. They call them the chosen people, and the tithings that you're giving are because you are a part of the one true church, and you are you're called of God. You're like the highest kind of human being in this church. So that's why you give us money. So for one, the church members don't know that they're investing with their tithings. They're told that they're giving water to third world countries, that they're helping missionary work, that they're providing meals for starving children. They're not told that they are buying out life insurance companies. They're not being told that. So that's one big problem. And let me be clear that the amount of tithing that they're giving averages to about $7 billion a year.
Oh, this is not monopoly money. $7 billion?
Mm-hmm.
Because $1 million is crazy to me. Mm-hmm. And like $7 billion, I can't even fathom.
And that we've said this before, and I think this conversation's happening a lot more now that everything is going so poorly, that the difference between $1 million and $1 billion is almost incomprehensible. Like, you hear both of those words and you're like, that's all a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
A millionaire is closer to poverty than they are to a billionaire.
Is it kind of like a millionaire is an anthill and a billionaire is a mansion?
Yeah. So it's hard for us to even conceive of what $7 billion looks like, but they are more close to having around $300 billion. And there are averages. People are estimating, and I can only say this is alleged by people who have like done the work, but some people think they're close to being a trillion, like trillionaires.
You know, I had this dream the other night, and you can call me a crazy whore, but I pictured like me walking into a church in the future, and the cross was lit with like a glow like a, what do you call it? Like a zzz, like a, that are on the side of hotels.
Like a neon sign?
Like a neon sign. It was like neon and everything. Everybody had tablets and everything was like God of Bitcoin. And they sort of like merged Bitcoin and Jesus.
They've already done it. I mean, that's already, Christ is so monetized. Like it is, anybody who I even hear talk about Jesus anymore, I just immediately assume have never considered what that idea of that man was supposed to stand for. Like anybody who talks about Jesus is like probably never read anything.
No, we were actively told to not read the Bible. It's so weird, the Aquarian thing we're moving into, because it's very Old Testament angry, they deserve to burn. But then this modern, like we're going to like buy out investment companies and get involved in Bitcoin. And it's so weird
You
how,
know, like Jesus wanted you to.
That's right. It's like a past and future making some weird mutant baby.
They're just making shit up. They're just making it up like shamelessly. They just say the words and have a cross, and then they can just say whatever they want. I mean, that's the long and short of it. That's it. You put the sign up and you say the words, and people are like, yeah,
okay.
And that's not even to shit on the people doing that. It's very dark. I don't even know what I feel like the word evil doesn't even like resonate enough. I don't know what the word is.
Yeah, like what's a worse? Write in someplace underneath at gmail.com if you can, like, if you
give
got
us some synonyms.
That's
please.
right. English majors, calling all English majors.
Anyway, the lawsuit. It would seem logically that this lawsuit would make sense and not be super controversial. Like, yeah, they're a business that mishandled and lied to their investors. Like, that's a crime. But legally, we're dealing with antiquated laws regarding religion. And it's something that the billionaires who now own our country have zero interest in changing because they benefit from these similar practices.
I'm just waiting for Elon Musk to like go on God, like to wear a cross.
I think it's completely plausible that there's going to be like a section of people who start worshiping like a Christ-like figure like Trump or Elon. I can see that happening. Like it's already slowly, but I can see it like literally transitioning as like a church figure, like a church with Trump on a cross. Like I feel like that's coming. I really do. Mark my words. So how did we get here?
Let's rewind.
You're probably wondering how we ended up here. So as we're just like eating garbage out of like a destroyed city,
right? With some like bright shining cross, and someone's like, "Give me money if you want to go to heaven."
Yes.
We need a Martin Luther now anytime before.
Well, we'll see what happens. So, how did we get to where the church is just like a money-making scheme? Was it always? Maybe some, but there was a shift at one point when they started to go like, you know what we should do? Make a bunch of money. And there's not like a specific exact day, right? But there are people who speak out about this. And there's this really cool, brave, badass young woman named Josie Porter who has been speaking out about Ensign and the church's behavior. Not only did she work for Ensign Peak for a time, her father is one of the executives there currently.
Whoa.
Her father is an active Mormon. She has since left the church. And she talks about how her leaving had to do largely with what she learned when she was doing work with Ensign. As literally the only woman in the room, by the way. It was very unusual for her to be there. Her story is fascinating.
Of course, the witch. Women are seen as witches because we're constantly questioning all this bullshit going on.
Yeah.
Whereas the guys in these stories are actually very submissive cucks.
I mean, I'm not gonna argue with you. Josie's story is really interesting, and she's incredibly honest about her story as well. Specifically saying, if I was a guy, I probably would have continued being a Mormon because I wouldn't have seen how messed up. Like,
you just get all the pussy you want.
I'm the smartest guy, and I make all the rules.
And
That's
they have
awesome.
to forgive me for all my bad stuff. Yeah. So of course it takes somebody out of that to say, wait, whoa.
And she's honest about it. And she says, I started learning about the patriarchy and feminism because I was able to leave the tiniest bit of bubble to be a part of Ensign. Because even if you're a Mormon, if you work for their financial branch, you're going to see worldly things and you're going to learn about all kinds of bad shit, but also about feminism, stuff like that. So she unintentionally learned about feminism in this setting.
I bet they regret getting a woman on the team.
Oh,
like, I said you shouldn't get a whore on here.
I mean, she's speaking out. So
yeah.
I will say, though, she wants to make it clear that she still loves her dad and they have a relationship still. And this isn't her saying her dad's a bastard. She actually thinks her dad is very emotionally conflicted all the time about what's going on there. He's not the boss. He's like just higher up. But anyway, her and her sister actually both speak out in their stories, and very cool. So while there isn't one special day that the church has started turning tithing into profits, so that branch, Ensign Peak Advisors, was founded in 1997. So this specific iteration of their profiteering is relatively new. It wasn't like they weren't doing it before, but this is like people stepped in and went, let me turn this money for you. And therein lies a lot of the problems around this, because the argument the church comes up with all the time is, well, we're just creating an investment for like rainy day. Like, it's okay for us to like invest. It's not illegal for us to invest, but what they're doing is amoral at best. So let's talk a little bit about how this is happening, right? So Josie, who grew up all around the Ensign Peak community because of her dad, they grew up in New York and New Jersey. This is actually where this is all happening. So it's Mormons, but they have wards out there too. And it was all of the Wall Street bros, the East Coast people who really were responsible for starting to build this like empire. So even though Ensign Peak's headquarters are in Utah in Mormon country, it's all run by Mormon finance guys. And a lot of business is done near Wall Street. And so they are the Wall Street guys.
Oh, God. They were all Mormon the whole time.
Well, there's just the ones working for Ensign Peak.
Right, okay.
But they interact with all of them, and they are in the room, and this is something that Josie talks about a lot. They are in the room with all of the technocrats, the billionaire nationalists, the Christo-fascists. They are all, their community is money. So one of the first people she mentions when she's telling her story is her being in a room with Jared Kushner, with the Mormon people. Because like the Kushners, the Mormon church's money rules all above everything. So Josie has a really, really unique perspective as a woman allowed in that space, and as an ex-Mormon who still loves her dad and has a relationship with him. The complex understanding she has also that her own dad is conflicted about the way the church handles the money, but still works for them and is a devout member, because I'm not taking blame off of him, but it's again a situation where if he were to speak out, he would lose his job. He'd be unhireable a lot of places. He would be excommunicated.
He'd lose
his
everything.
community. And I'm not saying, I feel like you could be brave and do that, because if you're doing stuff that's bad enough, maybe you should be excommunicated from that community, because like, fuck them. But also I do understand it's a legacy thing. They've been, probably generations of Mormons and all that. So it's complicated. But Josie and her dad actually were also very familiar with an extremely important whistleblower in all of this. This is a man named David Nielsen, and he worked at Ensign Peak. He's a former employee, and he was a devout Mormon. And when he started working there, he became stunned at what he began to understand was not only the vast wealth that his church held, but that it was being spent in ways that were not only unethical, but really tested the limits of the laws.
I thought I was going to work for a charity. I thought that's what my skills were going to do, was help build the charity and do good with things. And the funds were never used for that. It was really a clandestine hedge fund.
A clandestine hedge fund?
Yeah.
How so?
Those funds weren't used the way they were appropriated to be used.
So how were they being used?
Well, once the money went in, it didn't go out. You know this, Wall Street, you spend your skills working to make really rich people a little bit more rich, but there is something different about the prospect of putting your skills to work for something that you think is really going to build the kingdom, that's really going to make a difference.
He says the firm used false records and statements to masquerade as a charity, stockpiling money and misleading church members. Every year, the church collects an estimated $7 billion in contributions from its 17 million members.
Tithing is what's used to build buildings. It's what's used to pay the light bills. Tithing is what's used to operate some of the church's programs.
Whatever's left over, about $1 billion a year, is put into a reserve fund at Ensign Peak and invested. Because Ensign Peak is registered as a nonprofit, it all grows tax-free. David Nielsen says since it was created in 1997, the reserve fund has swelled beyond $100 billion, twice the size of Harvard's endowment or the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
I thought we were going to change the world, and we just grew the bank account.
That is a man, again, named David Nielsen, who is incredibly brave and good for what he did, because he was, of course, exiled from his community for doing that. And when David brings up this massive surplus to his higher-ups, he was concerned. He was like, what is this? Like, what are we doing? I thought I left Wall Street to do something good for humanity. And they make jokes about it being for the second coming, which I think is about the least funny response they could come up with. Haha, isn't it funny? Our church fleeces vulnerable people by telling them the rapture's coming to take them to a better place if they pay us. Ha 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 ha. What a funny joke.
Is that why everybody's so gleeful about the rapture lately? Because they're just giving their money and they're being told, like, rapture's coming, give us your money.
I just think so many people are so disenfranchised and they can't see that it's because of the very people they worship. I'm not even just talking about the Mormon church, but the ones who are actually fucking their lives over.
Yeah.
That they can't feel anything except contempt for other people, and they are gleeful about the idea everyone's going to suffer. Instead of just being like, actually, the people who you're looking up to are the ones who are causing all the problems, but okay. So, yeah, they make this joke, this little fun Mormon joke that, oh, the money's coming, the money's here for the end times, haha. Also, I got to say, even if they believe that this is the concept that it's for the end times, why would $200 billion matter in the rapture? Do you think banks are going to be open?
Right. Well, you got to pay the guy to make you cross the river.
Oh, the guy.
Who's that guy with the dogs?
That's two different guys, I think.
Oh, shit. Well, right in. Someplace underneath the channel.
What's that? It's not Hades. Hang on. Now I got to look it up. It's going to drive me crazy. The river Styx. Is this called the ferryman?
Yeah, I think just the ferryman.
I guess his name's Sharon. I've never heard that.
Yeah, well, you got to pay the ferryman.
The river Styx.
Yeah, that's why they're getting all the money.
So they're going to give every one of the Mormon members a coin from that $200 billion.
Well, no. See, inflation has hit Hades. So instead of 2 silver coins to make across the river Styx, you got to give them $1 billion.
I see. Oh, so it's just really for a couple people.
It's just the top guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see. Well, they deserve it. They've worked really hard.
Yeah, get over there, buddy.
I feel as though, even though I was raised secularly, that isn't like one of the main tenets of the Bible, like the richest people are supposed to be at the bottom of the list of the most righteous.
Shh, don't say it, Natalie.
This is a Bible quote. It is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. That is the source material.
Also, the only time Jesus was angry is when people were in the church, like peddling wares. Because people aren't taught to read their Bibles. You're actively taught to not do it, and you have to listen to some guy, and I will say guy, because it's usually a man at the pulpit, just misdirecting you, misleading you.
There was the skinny lady who died in the plane crash.
Oh, right.
There's that one.
God wants you skinny.
He sure does. Yeah, I guess that's it. I guess the people at the very top are never questioned by people who would ask them a question like this. So if they remain inside an echo chamber, they never have to answer that, I guess.
No. And like your soul is kind of the most precious thing you have. We don't know what happens after this. And if you're told you're going to fly in outer space forever or a different religion, burn in hell, that's really scary. And you're like, I don't want to do that. Oh, I guess I'll give you money. And then they use that money to fuck you over even more.
Yep.
Finding the music you love shouldn't be hard. That's why Pandora makes it easy to explore all your favorites and discover new artists and genres you'll love. Enjoy a personalized listening experience simply by selecting any song or album, and we'll make a station crafted just for you. Best of all, you can listen for free. Download Pandora on the Apple App Store or Google Play and start hearing the soundtrack to your life.
Nearly home. Isn't home where we all want to be? Reba here for Realtor.com, the pros' #1 most trusted app. Finding a home is like dating. You're not just looking for a place to live, you're searching for the one. That's where Realtor.com comes in. Like any good matchmaker, they know exactly where to look. With over 500,000 new real listings straight from the pros every month, you could find your perfect match today. Ranch style with a pool? Barn dominium with an in-law suite? Realtor.com's got them. Modern craftsman with a big yard and a treehouse out back? Realtor.com will have you saying, yep, that's the one. No more swiping. It's time to start finding. Download the Realtor.com app today, cause you're nearly home. Make it real with Realtor.com.
Pros #1 most trusted app based on August 2024 proprietary survey. Over 500,000 new listings every month based on average new for sale and rental listings. February 2024 through January 2025.
So now that we've clarified that, regardless of the fact that they also call the tithing surplus a, quote, rainy day fund. By the way, it's got to be a biblical-ass storm if you need that much money for a rainy day. David reveals that he saw other documents that show that they spent $1.5 billion on the development of a mall, which is one of the reasons that he came forward as a whistleblower. And this is how we know about the mall investments. So they spent $1.5 billion of tithings to make a mall and profit off of that. And it is not only that, but it is around one of their SLC temples. So they built a mall near the temple like it's Vegas.
City Creek Center. I'm looking it up.
Yeah.
Let me see. Do they have Forever 21? Do they have
do.
little cunty crop tops?
But they also have like the high-end fashion like Chanel and all that.
All right, let's see. Let's see the stores here. Quick Dining, Chick-fil-A, got that. Okay, so
Of course,
they got.
you got to get your Chick-fil-A in there.
They have a lot of designers I've never heard of. Like, who is Albion? Who's Alan Edmonds?
Probably somebody too rich for you to know about.
Who's Arc'teryx? What is Bohem, Bocata, Benetton, Jewel? Never heard of any of these.
Well, they're probably for rich people. So that's what the tithing money was spent.
Oh, they have Deseret Books. Don't worry.
Oh, of course.
Fabletics, Spa. Yeah. And also the H&M for the poors like me.
Yeah. So they did build it up around the temple like Las Vegas does, where you put them all around a casino and people will filter in to play slots after they go shopping, you know? You'll be unsurprised also knowing that to learn how much property the Mormon Church owns around Las Vegas, because they own a lot. So poor people's income made that mall. So let's just be blunt about that.
Yeah.
And they don't know it. So the people who made that mall don't know, and they didn't profit from it. They just gave their money to God, and God wanted to make a mall. At least they didn't know until people like David came forward. So now this whistleblower is coming forward, and still most of the people who gave their hard-earned money to the church so that they could make money off of a mall won't dare to look these stories up. Because not a bunch of apostates telling their evil lies, right? You can't believe them.
You can't. I looked up this one store called Vuori. Guess how much a pair of sweatpants are?
Oh, no, don't start looking at how much.
It's $100.
Yeah, I mean.
That's why I don't know what these stores are. I can't afford it.
Yeah.
A tank top is $75. All right. Let's continue. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to derail. I just wanted to see what's at these stores.
So those stores were put down by the money of poor people who don't know that they invested in a mall, and they didn't invest in a mall. They just gave money like a charity to have people build a mall for themselves.
Who can't even afford to go shopping at the mall.
No, definitely not. At least a portion of the people can't who gave their money over. And even though this whistleblower has come forward, and even though we know these things now, a lot of the people inside the church will never believe the stories because it's apostates telling them. So it's really it's perfect plan. If you're like made of pure evil, it is a really good plan to make money.
That's right, Natalie. You're gonna go and you're gonna fly in outer space forever.
And don't look.
If
you look at those people, you're gonna.
That's right. And Adam, you gotta fly in space forever. You got to give me $25.
Yep.
And I just keep telling that to people, and I take all this money and I go build a Fabletics.
Yep. That's what they did. Then, of course, the purchase of the life insurance company. It's just like the most cliche form of a villain to take poor people's money and invest in a life insurance company. It's just like...
Because they never give out the money. They just take the money and then they're like, oh, this one little stupid thing we made up, then can't get it, mama.
Yeah. So The everyday LDS members probably don't even know the name Ensign Peak Advisors. Like, this is insidious. They don't know them. I imagine, I could guess that a lot of the people who just attend church and like go to the temple and do the temple weddings and do all the things, take the sacrament, all that, they probably have never heard the name Ensign Peak Advisors, because that's just, it's covert. It's supposed to be hidden. You're not supposed to know that your tithing is going into this.
It's clandestine.
Look at you.
Yeah.
When 60 Minutes covered David's story of being a whistleblower, surprisingly, the church also agreed to speak with them. But I gotta say, man, their representative, which is Bishop Christopher Waddell, who's the guy who like helps run the financials there, who's a bishop, Bishop Christopher, he sets my teeth on edge. I think it's that it's his meek voice just saying abhorrent lies and just like pure copium coming out of his mouth, but he's talking like this.
Yeah, because he's a submissive guy. He's submissive to the guy above him. That's it. He's just sucking the other bishop's cock mentally, spiritually, instead of standing up like a real man.
And sucking a cock.
And go suck a real cock in a bathroom at a gay bar.
Yeah.
Like a real man does.
I agree. So that's not where the fraud actually ends. Let's look at this.
SEC investigators found the church went to great lengths to hide $32 billion in securities over nearly 20 years. It created 13 shell companies that were assigned a local phone number that would go directly to voicemail in case regulators checked in.
Here they had these back office accountants who had never bought a bond or sold stock a day in their life, signing signatory pages for a portfolio that didn't exist.
Bishop Christopher Waddell told us it was the church's lawyers who advised them to create the shell companies.
What about, the idea that secrecy builds mistrust?
Mm-hmm. Well, we don't feel it's being secret. We feel it's being confidential.
What's the difference?
The difference is...
So they were found to have created shell companies to move money around.
Now, what's a shell company for the idiots like me?
It's not, you're not an idiot. To my understanding, because I'm also not a financial professional at all, it is a made-up company that people put their money into to avoid people knowing that you have that money. And so it's a name only, essentially. So you create like, if you created like, Bitch United.
Right.
Bitches fuck.
Or is it kind of like back in the day, there was this thing for dog collars where you put it on and you could hear your dog speak in English, and then people would call, which is obviously fucking stupid. And obviously people gave them their money and they dipped, and then people would call in, and I saw all the Amazon reviews that were just like, I put it on my dog, it couldn't speak.
Well, technically no, because they created a product. Like, you could sue them for misleading people, but this is a company that doesn't do anything. It's just to hide money. And so they make a name up. So if they went like
Amber's
Bitch United.
Yeah.
What a shell company is they make the like all of the official titles of it, and then they put a phone number attached to it with a voicemail so that if somebody were like, well, we want to make sure Amber's Bitch United is real, and they call, it's just like, Amber's Bitch United is out being a bitch right now. Leave us a message. And then you just leave a message and like nobody will ever respond. Like, that's essentially what shell companies are. And it is obviously illegal to do. And it's very, common amongst billionaires and amoral people. The Mormon Church was also doing this.
Whoa. I'm looking at different shell companies. One's called the Sega Dream Corporation. This isn't Mormon, so I'm derailing, but it's here. Whoa, I had no idea.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, Sega Sammy Holdings in 2013. That's a big one that was just like, oh, this is a fake company.
Yeah, obviously any that you would find online were discovered because a shell company would never announce that they were a shell company. They were found out afterwards, right? So that's what happened with the shell companies inside of Ensign Peak, who were taking the tithings and hiding the money so the government wouldn't know about it. Which is like crazy because the government doesn't even check to see what you're doing. Like, the government cares so little about what churches do, which is why really horrible people go into churches. It's like, doesn't even make sense. I don't know why they're hiding money. I'm sure it was for some really fucked up reason. So as moneyed people oft do, when they were caught, All they had to do was pay a massive fine and then go about their day. So they're doing this really amoral, like unconscionable thing by taking all these tithings and like trying to make extra money off of them. And then government was just like, just pay us $5 million.
You know what? No wonder they do that. Same thing when people are caught with abuse in the church. Like, well, just give us money and say you're sorry and then we'll be forgiven. Because the same thing is done to them by the government.
Yeah, sure. And that massive fine, by the way, $5 million would amount to about a week's worth of takeout in the grand scheme of their money. You know what I mean? Like, it's nothing. They're like, okay, sorry, here's $5 billion. The lawsuit that is now coming out with, that we started the episode with, the 9 plaintiffs who are saying, I want my tithing money back, is being overseen by a judge who seems to be outside of the Mormon church, even though he is in Utah. It seems like he is not directly a member. I have a hard time, and we'll get way more into the politics side of all this. I have a hard time having faith in anybody who works inside of Utah not being paid off. I have a hard time believing it. I'm not saying this man is, but I really don't trust any of them because, again, if you have enough money, people will do whatever you want.
They tried to buy out the Tribune.
They did.
What makes them not buy out a judge?
But on the surface, he's not, which is good. But again, this is an uphill battle, and it's one that I wonder if we are too far gone as a society into the world of money addicts in the U.S. to come back from this uphill battle of these people fighting for their money. I wonder if there's too many billionaires in control now to ever have justice, like real justice.
Right, because if you want to do everything matter of fact, like they say, like, oh, we'll just like file the paperwork. But then who's processing the paperwork? Somebody that works for them.
Yeah.
So it's unjust from the get-go.
So yeah, the ones who have twisted all the rules are the ones making the rules up now. So Josie Porter and her sister Riley speak of this very conundrum the American people now face.
How does this nonprofit tax-exempt church get to act as a for-profit investment fund? And so that was kind of like the beginning of my education, that like this was a separate entity, although it was, you know, definitely underneath the leadership of the church, but it was a entity that was able to behave in this way because it was not necessarily the church, but kind of the church, right? That's where it got like kind of confusing really quickly. His answer would always be like, Riley, it's legal. Everything that we're doing is legal. Like, I feel like he like wanted to, because to me, it didn't legally make any sort of sense. And then he would say like, what we're doing is legal. You can contest that maybe the laws are antiquated
or unethical.
Exactly. And that when these laws that were established that give churches a certain amount of exclusion and a special status, that, you know, the people who created those laws never anticipated a centralized American church that would gather that much. They were thinking of local parishes, right? Like church
2 kitchens.
Exactly. Like churches are able to like have these exemptions because it's understood that they're going to act as these charitable organizations. At least that was my understanding. And so when my dad's not actively doing charity, like this doesn't sound like a charitable organization anymore. How does that tax exempt status still neatly fit into how this all plays out? Like that was confusing for me for a long time. And I feel like the answer that I got was that
it's legal.
It's legal.
So interesting, because the guys that, you know, founded all these rules in America, they probably founded them with like churches should be tax exempt because they're probably used to old London with these giant churches and the kings and queens just take your money and you have to give it to them. So then they're like, oh, fuck you guys, we get to start our own thing here. But then that sinister
history repeats itself. Baby.
Yeah, it's happening all over again.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. And who you just heard is the daughter of one of the executives of Ensign Peak, and she is correct. What she's saying is they're going by, well, it's legal. It's legal what we're doing, and not at all questioning the values and morals, what they're supposed to uphold as church members, as people who are using people's tithings. They're going, well, we're not breaking any laws, which is what they do exactly when they won't report sex abuse. We're not breaking any laws. We don't have to. We don't have to do it. They're living inside of, well, I'm not going to jail for it. So we don't have to do it. And we're not going to do it. We don't have to. And so that's why, unfortunately, laws have to exist at all, because some people will just fucking stick their penis in people's like eye sockets if it was legal. They just walk around, fucking steal your arm.
Whatever they want. That's why I never got behind like the libertarian movement when it was first explained to me when I was younger. And I was like, well, you know what? Because it was always related to me of the bus theory about how we always naturally get in line for the bus. So, and I'm like, oh, well, you seem to, and I remember having this conversation a long time ago before I could articulate it. It's like, it seems like you have a very good moral understanding of people, but people aren't all like that.
Yeah.
And they just, libertarianism is so they can have sex with kids.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of
it.
There's a reputation for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, same. I mean, growing up in the punk scene too, it's very anti-establishment, very anti-government, there are many reasons for that because there is so much injustice. But even as a very rebellious kid, people be wearing punk patches that was like, we don't need government, people govern themselves. And I'm like, have you been anywhere? Because
have you talked to people?
I don't think that's true.
No, they don't. Have you seen that movie SLC Punk? I saw it released recently and I was like, what a fucking poser.
Yeah.
Because I never saw it. And then I heard about it, how cool it was, about how he's such a libertarian against the world, man. I saw it and I was like, no, your dad's rich.
Yeah, even back in the day when that came out, like punk kids were like, fuck this movie.
Yeah, fuck this guy.
I mean, now I'd probably think it was charming because I don't care. But at the time, everybody's like, whatever, fuck that movie.
Yeah, honestly, fuck that movie. Which the actor's great. I don't know anything about it personally. But
Matthew Lillard, right?
Yeah, he's a good actor.
Oh, yeah, Matthew Lillard's awesome. He's a great dude. You should watch more of his movies. He's fantastic. He's also, he's from Scream.
Oh, he's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's hot. He's
One
fun.
of my favorite things he ever did was he did an episode. Oh, yeah, he's super sexy. He did an episode of SVU where he played Carol Burnett's lover. And it was like awesome. Oh, my God.
Oh, man, I got to watch that.
Yeah, it's good. Anyway, we need to wrap this up. I'm not a financial expert, but I am listening to financial experts who are speaking about this. And just reason and logic to me dictates that what they're doing is bad. It's not okay to do, even if they're not technically breaking laws, which laws that should be absolutely changed. I don't know if that's going to happen because we've now given the keys over to like the worst people on earth. Yeah. So I don't know how that's going to change, but they should change because this is literally just a money-making scheme. That's what church is turning into.
It's like, the guys we talked about before, like you have to go to the church and say, oh, I'm hurting my daughter. Like who's going to do that except for a handful of guys and then they go off themselves in prison.
Yeah.
No one's going to come forth unless you're a whistleblower, but no one's going to come forth and be like, hey, you know what we're doing? We should donate to charity.
Oh, yeah, no. And listen, people like Josie Porter and Riley Porter, something I love about people who grew up in Mormonism that I find to be really refreshing, and I think something that's a benefit that comes from their upbringing, is that they are very optimistic about stuff and they are very kind and understanding. And so you have me over here screaming like a lunatic because I'm so mad. They're also mad, but they speak in terms in kindness, and they say like, they made a list of things they'd love to see the church change.
Yeah.
They speak with reason to the church, which is they're going to reach people that I can't. The people inside the church are not going to listen to me. They're going to call me a whore witch or whatever. And I say, you're correct and thank you. But I'm speaking for people who want to listen to me, but people like these two are going to have a different audience who might be receptive to them. And they think just like their dad, a lot of people working in that world, not just the whistleblower either, feel uncomfortable with this. And it's not just a room of men being like, ha, we got him again, idiots. There's like people who are like conflicted by this behavior and want it to change, right? So it's not just like this villains room. I do think some of them are villains probably, but not all of them. So Josie and Riley are doing an amazing job of speaking to people who might be swayed to change and try to help the church change. Also, if you have any interest in breaking down the numbers, if you are more savvy with finances, I've read through this many times, but also it's hard to understand if you don't understand financial charts. There's another whistleblower site that's so important. It's called thewidowsmite.org. And it follows and covers the church's profits and spendings every year. It's fully anonymous. It's not church sanctioned. This is like a whistleblowing website. But I imagine it's run either by current or former members who have an understanding of the financial records, who are trying to show the world with as much transparency as possible where the money is going in the church. And so it's a really valuable and amazing thing they've done. And there again, also the reason I think they probably are Mormons is because they have the same mentality as those sisters, which is like showing, oh, here's some good things they also did. And here's ways that maybe they can work on being better. And it's like critical of the church and the way they're spending money, but they're talking to them in a way where they're like, we want to see you like succeed in like a positive way. Here's some things that you should change. And here's some things that you've done better this year. But it's not a pretty picture, what they show. Somebody like me who doesn't have an investment emotionally in the church, I'm just like, how is this legal? You know, but like people who are in it, they're not going to respond to that, me screaming at them. So check that website out, Widow's Mite. That's spelled Mite. It's a reference to something in the Book of Mormon, basically talking about how this widow like gave all of her belongings, and it's supposed to be like this positive image, but it's like,
oh, is this the story in the Bible where this woman gives as much as she has?
And maybe that's a Bible. Maybe it's not Book of Mormon. Is it a Bible story?
Maybe. Everybody makes fun of her. And they're like, can you believe she only gave this much? And then God was like, this is actually a lot of money to her. So technically she's giving more than you.
I feel like that's a conflicting message. I don't know. It's encouraging people to give their money to the church, which always makes me
Maybe that's why the pastors would always talk about it, because they'd be like, she gave all her money, you know, even though other people made fun of her, she was more righteous.
God gave her a high five and said, yeah, bitch, it's you and me to the end.
Yeah, there's a lot of parables about submission.
Yeah, I bet. So check that out if you want to read more into that. And yeah, the church just is not going to reveal it. It's leaning heavily on the antiquated laws and just not really bringing up the amoral behavior. It's just the really frustrating part of hearing those very meek-sounding men going, well, we're not breaking any laws.
I guess I'm just doing what
We're just doing what we're told to do.
Can you imagine going on like a steak dinner with him? Like an expensive, you know, maybe you get paid a little bit and you're like, oh, I guess I'll go see what it's like in the rich world. And it's just like some fucking toe.
Ugh. No, I can't actually imagine
not
ever
even
doing that.
Fun. You know,
No.
you can't even drink.
Mm-mm. So I want to leave this episode with the words of Riley Porter, again, ex-Mormon and daughter of Ensign Peak Advisors Executive, because I think she encapsulates my anger and disgust with this behavior. And I want if a single Mormon hears these words and thinks about them, I feel like that's worth it.
And at the end of the day, like you said, John, isn't it inevitable? I mean, in my mind, like it makes all too sense that like this doesn't, at least to me, act like the Church of Jesus Christ here on earth today. But it definitely seems like it was the church of a treasure hunter. It seems like this was like the perfect manifest destiny that Joseph would have blessed if he saw this coming. Yeah, that's a Riley Porter take. That's my 2 cents is I don't see a world where Jesus comes down and sanctifies what has become of this organization. But I think that it's exactly what Joseph would have wanted it to be.
I mean, Joseph got his treasure.
Joseph got his treasure. Yeah, yeah. This was a church that always had problems with legal disclosure. This was a church that always was hiding things from the general public. This was a church that has behavior, and repeated behavior means something. And there is a system of repeated behavior that always was about non-disclosure, that was about hiding things, that was about doing things illegally, that was about avoiding legal repercussions, that was about practicing polygamy in a territory and hiding that. I mean, there's a long and rich tradition of hiding, of illegality, and of privilege and superiority that serves a small portion of a minority and an elite minority at the cost of everyone else.
Pandora makes it easy for you to find your favorite music. Discover new artists and genres by selecting any song or album, and we'll make you a personalized station for free. Download on the Apple App Store or Google Play and enjoy the soundtrack to your life.
Hey everybody, Conan O'Brien here with an ad about my podcast, Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. I've had so many fantastic conversations with people I truly admire, people like Michelle Obama, Bruce Springsteen, Maya Rudolph, Tom Hanks. New episodes are out every Monday, and we have a really good time, so subscribe and listen wherever you get your podcasts.